different methodology. It's very, very complicated. Debbie can explain it, or you can read the state statute. But there are some districts out there, and I won't name the different companies or the city or not, but I believe we did change our methodology on some of the lighting districts in a better way, because you have to look at the forward as far as replacing the poles and all of those costs that come with it, down the road. So this is not something you want to just jump into just because today your monthly amount is this. You want to look at really what the entire cost and how the state allows these districts to be created. Thank you.
Okay. My thoughts are that when the debate is, does lighting deter crime, that misses the point. Obviously, it does, right? I mean, that's never been in question here. The question is this a cost that we can afford to impose on our property owners, the new property owners? Of course, this only would apply prospectively. Maybe, but this is not an insignificant cost. Even with Councilmember Boyette's $13 a month times 12 is $156.
That's a year.
That's a year?
Yeah, that's my yearly bargain. Yeah.
A bargain. Yeah, and yet that seems hard to believe when the other cost of putting it is $37.5, which would translate to it was about $300 a year with max numbers plus electricity costs. So just to put that in perspective, our failed bond levy for parks was about $165 per year. So at $300, we're talking about imposing a price that's almost double of that on new property owners. $13 a year, that's a whole different matter, right?
Because it's 22 years old.
So maybe you're only talking about electrical costs. So I'm confused. And if it really is $300 a year, double the cost of the bond, that has to have an impact on our property owners. And I'm just not comfortable with that. So I think that staff needs to go and dig into these costs more. I'm surprised we don't have 16 developers here, maybe because they just haven't been engaged in this. And if there's not a lot of pushback, there's not a lot of pushback. Maybe we could move forward with this. But I'm concerned about the cost at this point. Councilmember Kennedy.
Mayor, I've had concerns over the cost because it just doesn't make sense when you hear even the $3,700 that the total cost is going to be to put them up. If you waited for the subdivision to get built and then come back to the utility company and say, please put in a lighting district, then your cost is the $7 a month. So why wouldn't you do it that way? And that's why the requirement on lighting for the subdivision, is there someone we're paying upfront costs to when you could have the subdivision built and then have the utility company put them up, and it's less for the taxpayer? So I can't quite get my arms around these figures, and I'm where you are. If I would rather, if it's $7, $8 a month, I think that's sellable to anybody. But how do you get from building the subdivision to actually just putting up the lighting district and charging the people that live there $7 a month? And I don't know how you do that.
And obviously $7 or $8 a month is a real different from $13 a year. We're all going to move to your neighborhood, Councilmember Boyette, just to get, we don't understand that. So, okay, further discussion, then we'll do a little show of hands. Councilmember Shaw.
I'm definitely very supportive of this. I believe strongly that this should be a requirement. I understand the cost, I do. But I also think we're not at all talking about the cost of our public safety officers that are going to be spread and responding to calls there. That costs all of us money. I think it's unfair to say that we're going to allow all these new neighborhoods to come online with no lighting, and there's going to be more crime issues, and the rest of us are going to pick up the tab for that. I live in a 110-year-old house. I pay about just under $200 a year for lighting, whatever system that is, I don't know. That's what my property bill is. That seems like a bargain to me, and I think we can get these numbers. I think there are different options. I like the flexibility in this, but I would encourage us to move forward because it's just a piece I haven't heard. We don't want to have to add a whole bunch of new police officers just because we have these neighborhoods that aren't willing to spend a small fraction of the cost of a new home to put lighting on their streets.
Okay, ready for a little show of hands? And again, even those of us who are going to vote no, I'm open if the cost is low enough, but what's that mean? Councilmember Kenny?
Just, is there something you can put together for us, Mac, so we can actually see? I get what you did here, but there's some actual costs out here. If the utility company puts it together, I'd just like to see something in writing from them that actually it's going to go. I would like to see lighting. It's the cost, and we keep on hearing from $3,700 to $12,000 more. That's a lot of money to put on a person's mortgage, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gay. I would second that. We can do, this is helpful, but it's too important. We can flesh something out, and I would encourage you to work with Dan Brooks so that the chamber could vet this and do something, and also Northwestern Energy. If you all put your minds together, we ought to be able to produce a couple-page document with good, solid detail. That's my opinion. Okay, generally in favor, just like we did before, versus opposed for now. If you're generally in favor of the lighting requirement, please raise your hand. And if you're the one hold out, raise your other hand. Okay. All right, we know where that's going. Okay, good. Chris?
So can I just confirm 9 to 2, but we shouldn't spend hours?
Was there some? I think it was just me.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
well,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. There was discussion from staff about the fencing issue, but there's nothing in this for our consideration right now, and also the 20% cul-de-sac limitation. So I'm assuming that neither of those require any further discussion, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Councilmember Nees, Councilmember Shaw.
There was some discussion regarding the cul-de-sacs being on lengths of streets. Did that get changed where they weren't going to be allowed when there's a developer property next door to ensure that we have connectivity when that property is developed? Was that required in that? No, we talked about that, making sure that we don't.
I believe that is still, but can either Anna or Mac address in your here you're talking pedestrian connectivity?
No, street connectivity.
Oh, for a future development.
With these
Gotcha.
long blocks that are being developed as cul-de-sacs, because they're not connected, but yet there's vacant lots.
Preserving a connection
Leaving
point,
connected,
a
yeah,
road
and so you
connection point.
can't just get a cul-de-sac because you got a long 1,000-foot lot.
There is limitations on the cul-de-sac length. And then what was pointed out in the presentation is the maximum number of cul-de-sacs in the entire subdivision. So both intents are to limit that and have connectivity through connectivity. So yeah, 600 feet is the maximum amount of cul-de-sac length that we have allowed in our subregs.
Right, but if there's developable property next door, it may be
You
only.
still have to have an easement. That's in the subregs
May
as
have,
well.
maybe it's 600 feet, but you're going to be allowed a cul-de-sac even though you don't need one because you got property next to it that can be developed, and then you'd have connectivity.
So if you can future develop it, you're gonna put an easement up into your property line. That would, then the pavement of it would happen after that property was then developed. If it's already been developed and there is a connection that's there to where it could tie in, you have to tie into it. Both items are outlined in the subdivision regulations.
Okay, and is that a change from today?
No.
Okay, because then our subdivision regulations aren't addressing the issues that are happening with people developing long lots and just putting in a long street with a cul-de-sac and putting in their big development there. And then the other property owner next to it develops theirs and it's another long street and with a cul-de-sac. And so those two properties aren't connected. You have to come all the way out to the street, you don't have a block anymore.
That's in the regulations. That wouldn't be changed. That's already required. So the connection with an easement to a future developable lot is a requirement in our subdivision regulations. So if that lot was vacant and you have a subdivision that's going in, they would have to preserve an easement. You can't put a road on somebody's land that you don't own.
Right.
But
you
they're
can-
preserving
you have
that
to
easement.
Preserve it to that lot.
Yes, correct. So that lot, when it's developed, would have to tie into it.
And, okay, all right.
I think you're getting what you want.
I'm
Mr.
getting what I
Bonner.
want, yeah, but I don't think it's actually working.
Okay. Councilmember Shaw?
Thank you. Anna, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard very clearly from you that the issue of fences and areas along arterial streets is a zoning issue and a design standard issue, not appropriate for this conversation. Yes?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, council, are we done on this item for tonight? Okay, with that then, Chris, that we'll call that a wrap on item number 3. Anything you want to highlight for us for upcoming council meetings?
I would just
Agenda
say that we are, now that budget's adopted and some other things, we're back at the strategic plan to get it in front of you at a work session so we can get back to officially adopting priorities. The last time we adopted priorities was May of 2022. So that's some work that's going to come to you in the upcoming 30 days as quickly as we can fit it into a work session.
Okay, thank you. Any items of general council discussion?
I have one.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Yes, I will be bringing back a council initiative, and I'm bringing it up today because it'll come up in September, and I'll make sure you get it a couple weeks in advance. And it will be on the problem that we have with code enforcement and the sight distance of fences that are already there, especially the ones at the alleys. And it'll be a initiative of looking at the grandfathering and then I'm working with the fence folks in town so we can get a streamline and an initiative to come before the council.
Thanks for the heads up. Councilor Bernice?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted, Chris, I want a question regarding this refunds for the parking, the overcharge of parking.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go, I'm just thinking if just a normal person, they go to the store, they get overcharged, they're going to get refunded. Or if I get extra change in, you know, when someone gives me extra change, of course, they use credit card nowadays, so there's never extra change. But if I did, I would, you know, give that back right away. So, and there was no hard process. Why are we not just refunding this money back to the people who paid it? I'm assuming because they paid it, we know who they are. We could just send a note and a letter with a check or debit back to their card or whatever, however they paid, saying, hey, we're sorry, we realized we overpaid. Here's the amount that we overpaid you.
So Councilmember Neese, it's not quite that easy, and it's again with the software that we've got, we can't pull out that of which tickets were escalated incorrectly. So that's part of it, and then some of it did not escalate the tickets, so there wasn't an additional charge there. And so that's why we have to go back individually, manually look at each person as that went forward.
So you're saying we don't really know who we overcharged or we don't overcharge. It's up to the individual to say if you got overcharged. So we're not doing an audit ourselves to find out who we
We've made some
overcharged.
attempts to try to just extract that data, and there's no way that we've been able to figure out to abstract that data, and we've even contacted the software company to see if that was available on how we needed to extract that, and at this time, we don't know a method to get that automatically.
Is this older software as well that we should be replacing, or is this, I mean, it seems to be that we have these conversations about data in our city. The police can't get the data. Public Works is having trouble now. We got parking, can't get their data. Is there?
It is a software application that is fairly old. I know it goes back to the previous 2 parking directors before the current one in place.
Okay, thank you.
I'm thinking it's also the case that it's the numbers, but please allow us to kind of look into it. In the conversations I've involved in, this is not, we do not anticipate that there's a lot of people that this affected. but we don't know for sure. So it isn't as if everyone who received a ticket, this happened to, that we can just reach out to them. So the audit that we tried to do showed minimal impact, but had a very low level of certainty that these are the handful of times it happened. So therefore, the word going out to everyone, if you think this happened to you, from webpage, from using social media and regular media, to try to get that word out.
Go ahead, Councilor Neese, you can finish. And then
Yes,
Councilor Owen.
since you might follow up on that. So Chris, if you did an audit, you know who the people, you know all the people who had parking tickets, right?
Correct.
So isn't there any way you can't send them a notice directly to say that there may have been a mistake in your parking ticket, to contact the city to have it reviewed?
We possibly could or could not, because I don't know if we have the address on every single one of those. We'd have to go back to the registered owners, but if they just paid their citation, we never pulled the registered owner address on all the
But you may
parking
have some of
tickets.
them. So this is where I was talking about over communicating to customers, you know, in your businesses. This is one of those areas. This is just one avenue. Maybe you get 25 or 50 or 75% of those who may be impacted. I think that's the kind of area. I know it's going to cost us probably more to do that, because then we're going to get a lot of people responding saying, well, maybe I got overcharged and I'm going to have it looked at and maybe they didn't. And so it takes that time. But we're taking ownership of the issue that was caused and then making our citizens, making sure they get treated fairly. So I think we need to, just to put a sign out there, in my opinion, I think it's not enough. I think we need to do more to try to get a hold of those customers. At least those we have, we should be addressing those.
Okay, let's move on. Just lighten us to the hour, Councilor Owen.
Sorry, I'm not moving on, Mayor. I'm just underscoring the point. I know that next week we are set during the business meeting to discuss parking fines, parking violations, all that. I want to talk about this more. I'm really bothered by this. We have money in our possession that doesn't belong to us. And just sticking a notice in the back of Yellowstone County News and tossing one post out on Facebook does not cut it for me. So I know Gina's not here and I know legal has done some work, but the city has known about this since the end of March, I think. I'm guessing, based on the fact that that was our cutoff deadline, was March. So we've known about this for a while, and for us just to do 2 brief communications, it's not cutting it for me. Tonight, in our staff packet, we had a list of traffic violations, traffic tickets, whether it's paid, unpaid, what the amount is, what the ticket number is, what officer issued it, whether it's been appealed, what its status is. We must have more data than you're letting on tonight. So all I'm saying is next week, I want us to go into this and figure out a solution that meets the public's interest, because it's our mistake. And it might be laborsome, it might be expensive, but it is our error, not theirs. So.
Okay, all right. If that's all, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.